Somehow, an indie game where you play as an animal seems to stir up a lot of anticipation amongst the gaming communities. Don't believe me? Think of Untitled Goose Game. Anyway, the cat game Stray initially began development as far back as 2015 under the working title of HK Project, an indie game that the founders of Blue 12 Studio wanted to make after working at Ubisoft Montpellier. Annapurna Interactive published the game, and the gameplay was inspired by the developer's own cats and other cat images and videos. The reveal of Stray on June 11, 2020 surely warmed the hearts of many cat lovers and maybe other people, like myself, looking for a more interesting gaming experience. Now, let's see if everybody wants to be a cat. Stray is a 3D adventure/platformer/puzzle game featuring a number of levels or chapters. The first level is where you notice two things: the credible animation and movements of a cat, and much of the mostly optional moves of this stray cat. The slinky, flexible and adorable movements of a cat is captured well from the get-go. And it's not just in the animation, but also in the controls and how they feel. Moving the cat with a stick strikes the right balance between flexible and athletic with restrictions. Then you learn how to run, jump, meow and even rest/sleep, an action which even is required to progress at the very beginning with a dissolve to black transition. This shows that the game is about intuition. If you think you can jump, meow or push objects around at the right time, you mostly can. Otherwise you can just scratch away at rugs and walls for pretty much no reason other than feeling like a cat. Sometimes you can scratch a door to get someone to open it, but that is largely secondary to the exploration of the alleys, streets, rooftops, and many interior structures. While this game features platforming, it's not in the vein of Super Mario 64 and others. The cat cannot fall off either the narrower structure, and to jump from one point to another requires looking for an interactive spot and pressing, in this case, the X button. You can jump seamlessly by pressing or holding the button constantly, but looking for the interactive spots can be very erratic and is frustrating in its position, complete with noticeable graphical glitches depending on the direction you move the cat. It also doesn't help that there are performance issues and slowdown that break the immersion on occasion, especially during autosaves and chapter breaks. Though to be fair, this could just be a PS4 or low-tier computer issue. It is also fair to say that what you see with the controls and movement at first is mainly what you get. But what Stray surprisingly does well is subtle variety. Almost every level feels different in what you have to do to progress, even with the deliberately limited controls. This is reflected in the simple story as well, as the stray cat is separated from the other cats and has to explore an underground city and make it out safely. This city was inspired by Kowloon Walled City and is essentially a cyberpunk dystopia setting, complete with neon lights, holograms, grunge, dirty water and plenty of debris. Influences such as Blade Runner are obvious, and the lighting is incredible. The graphics, despite performance issues and glitches such as the aforementioned platforming ones of a cat, are generally good with their realism. The sound is also exceptional across the board, and not just because you cat lovers will press the meow button constantly. It works mostly due to its understated nature, with the music being generally quiet and ambient and even eerie, with exceptions such as radio and dance tunes. This is comparable to the music of the game Machinarium, or even the film Koyanis Quatsi, but the music is important for gameplay. The music transcends its quiet and ambient nature, with its subtle cues really indicating where the player is and that they are in an important location in order to progress. It's also balanced. The music that appears or changes when you are, for example, in the flats looking for notebooks is a nice touch, and is probably some of the best music in the game. Searching for notebooks isn't the only quest of the game. In fact, the gameplay may be different to what one is expecting. Some of the time it feels like you're playing a point-and-click adventure game. This is where the companion drone B12 that the cat meets towards the beginning is instrumental, as it stores items and translates the deliberately effective gibberish sounds of the robots. You talk to various robot characters and figure out what it is they want and see if you can find it or at least help one robot so that they will give you something to give to another robot. The environments are dense, but the exploration is fairly open, meaning that you can get a little lost at first while you map everything out and figure out the sequences of puzzles to solve. Everything eventually clicks. Again, just randomly using the controls such as knocking things over is only somewhat optional and leads to several lightbulb moments. B12 is instrumental for solving the game's puzzles, which are not too easy or too hard and may only take a little time to figure out. Overall, the gameplay is interesting and it feels like it subtly borrows from a lot of different games, like the aforementioned adventure games with puzzles and items, not to mention stealth and combat sequences, the zerks that vaguely resemble the headcrabs of Half-Life, and the platforming. Even with a subtle variety, there are a few sequences that can be frustrating, namely the combat and stealth ones. This all makes it sound that it's not all about being a cat and doing cat things, but this is more than just a cat simulator. B12 also gradually regains its mostly optional memories, and it is through this and the character conversations you see the backstory and world building, and how these environments of robots and zerks and debris and so on came to be, leading to several emotional moments pondering over hope, companionship and environmentalism. But will curiosity kill the cat, you, the player, enough to want to get to the ending? The game takes roughly 5 to 8 hours to complete, and can take even less time than that if you know what to do and where to go next. That may not sound like much, but it can take time to map out the environments, and even then, there is a fair amount of optional side content for mostly replay value's sake. In fact, some of the trophies to obtain are among the most absurdly entertaining I've ever seen in a game. While the game could have been improved in its performance, precision in platforming, and certain gameplay dynamics across certain levels but are purely subjective in how enjoyable they are to the player, Blue 12 Studio can remain proud of what they've accomplished with the interesting gameplay, great music, the simple yet compelling and even relevant story, and of course, the near perfectly realised feeling of being a cat of this game, complete with PC mods such as playing as Garfield or even the dragon Spyro. Stray is a game that everyone will love. Well, almost everyone. Don't tell Charlie I played this.